Good evening to everybody. My name is Amanda Kraus, and I'm the CEO of USRowing. Thank you for joining us. I've been calling this the State of Rowing, but I think it's actually called the Annual Convention Meeting. But I'm really using it as an opportunity to talk about our year together, 2021, and what we're looking ahead towards in 2022. But first, I have Sarah McAuliffe and Jules Zane here to help me with all things as they do on a regular basis. But specifically, Sarah's going to be running a video we're really excited to share with folks. And this is exciting too. Jules, I forgot you're on the committee for this. So we have been working on a brand refresh for USRowing with a committee of very talented people to really renew and refresh the USRowing brand. It's completely new, completely different, and we're very excited about it. We hope you are too. And this is a video that was put together to introduce the new brand to all of our stakeholders.
So why do you row?
Good question.
It's the only sport I was ever good at.
You have fun and go fast.
I love the sport.
Hey, I just love being around it.
Rowing gives me a purpose and an enjoyment that I did not know even existed before finding this sport.
I think I row because I like being on the water. I like being with nature.
Every morning when I wake up, if I have a morning practice and I wonder why I'm doing this, when I get on the water, I had the thought that this is it and this is where I need to be. So
I think the reason that I row was really like the community that I saw from far away.
It really does give me a good sense of community and teamwork.
I wanted to be part of a team and part of a unit that works together.
You get to trust other people, and that's really great to me.
Everything that you were thinking about before you got there is gone.
Really, rowing is just something to push yourself and make you better than who you were the previous day.
I just can't really imagine stopping right now.
Rowing has always been a beautiful sport to behold. The grace observed from afar, belying the burning lungs and strained muscles in the boat. This sport is unique in the values it builds: resilience, teamwork, and discipline. And once instilled, they prove advantageous throughout every rower's life. USRowing is at a pivotal moment. We need a brand that can reintroduce us to existing audiences while also drawing in rowers who look more like the nation our elite teams represent. Most importantly, we need a banner the entire rowing community can rally under in common cause with a shared vision for inclusion and success. We want to unite and inspire, build pride and belonging, and create for ourselves and our sport an identity ready to meet the future. At USRowing, we are a crew of thousands, representing the novice rower just getting acquainted with terms like hands-on, as well as masters rowers whose motivation might simply be to enjoy a quiet moment of solitude on the water, and all those athletes in between who are sweating, racing, erging, training, and developing blisters. We need our brand to represent all of us. A logo is just a graphic treatment until an organization lives up to its ideals to make it meaningful. But we hope you will agree ours is a beautiful start that signals both a change in how we want to work with you, yet also provides a nod to this sport's unique and compelling history. Please take a look at our new logo in action.
All right, thanks, Sarah. And now we're gonna bring up some other slides and just gonna make them bigger so I can see them. We're gonna go through these slides and start on the next one. And then I'm going to make sure to leave some time at the end. So I want to start by first welcoming everybody. We have masters rowers, junior rowers, referees, coxswains, para rowers, coastal rowers, indoor rowers, parents of rowers, fans of rowers. Thank you for joining us, especially on a Friday evening. People are probably eager to sign off and get to dinner or Netflix or any number of things. So thank you for spending an hour with me this evening to look back on 21, my first full year as CEO at US Rowing, and to take a look ahead as well. So I was thinking about what to talk about tonight, and I was thinking, you know, I had ambitious goals going into 2021. In my first year, I really wanted to make sure that we took a hard look at organizational functionality at US Rowing, working on the structure and the staffing, making sure we had that part right. Wanted to focus on revenue generation, make sure that we had a very good business model in place so we can be sustainable in the long term for all of you, our rowers and members. I'm very much committed to diversity and inclusion in rowing, to make sure that our sport is representing the very diverse country that we live in. And then, of course, to take a hard look at high performance and how we've been doing on that front and what we can do better moving forward. We're going to get into all of that in this hour. I'd say, you know, best laid plans. You know, there were things that came up across the year that, of course, I knew that COVID existed, but you know, that ended up being a really big part of the year on the domestic side, and of course with the national team. There was a period of time where we just didn't even know if Tokyo would take place in the summer of 21. We didn't know if we'd have a spring and summer racing season, if any of us would have a spring and summer racing season. Youth nationals, masters nationals, we didn't know if clubs would be hosting regattas. So many unknowns that we were all navigating. We were also facing an assessment by the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee, taking a very hard and comprehensive look at our high performance programs. We took on the overhaul of our governance structure. So we were suddenly in the midst of a very major lobbying campaign, which was incredibly successful, and big thanks to all of you on that front who came out and supported us. And I don't think there's another way to say this. There's been a lot of reputational work and repair to do. And there's still a lot more ahead. So those were pieces that I thought, oh, well, these ended up being big priorities in 21 as well. So before diving into more details, I did want to say that although this work is incredibly challenging, it's absolutely been a privilege to do this work on behalf of this sport in this country. So I want to make sure that is very, very clear. It's a privilege to work with this team at US Rowing, to work with our board chair, Nobu Ishizuka, and to work with all of you from the clubs, colleges, masters, rowers, junior rowers, national team athletes, etc. I feel very, very lucky to be in this role. So it's good to think about the wins, you know, and I remind people on our team too, like, make sure you think about what went well, right? Take that moment to recognize for yourself and those around you, hey, these things went well. I think one thing we really tried to do from the very beginning is work on getting rid of all of the silos within US Rowing. So, you know, of course, there's the domestic effort, and there's the high performance effort, but we are all US Rowing. And I wanted our team to start to think more carefully about and more deliberately about the fact that we are one organization, and we need a marketing team and a development team and a finance team. And those teams support the larger effort. So whether it's the para rowing, adaptive rowing, senior team rowing, the junior team, whether it's club support or safety, all of that is supported by the infrastructure that exists within US Rowing. So really sort of thinking about functionality and how we operate at US Rowing. And the way we're structured now is that there's me, and then we have a senior team, and there's a head of each team that runs, so we have marketing, we have fundraising, we have operations, high performance, and we have programs, which encompasses membership, safety, coaching development, masters and youth. And then this is new, starting in January, we're going to have a head of community. And this person, Jenny Trays, will be in charge of DEI, STEM to Stern, veterans rowing, and adaptive rowing. And I'm really excited for people. We put this in the newsletter yesterday or 2 days ago, but we have a new hire, Rich Caccioppo, who will be coming in to be the new lead on the programs front for membership, safety, coaching ed, etc. He's a fantastic leader, and I know we're incredibly lucky to have him at the helm there. And I'm very much looking forward to people meeting Rich. So again, the marketing, fundraising, operations, that's to support all of US Rowing. And the idea is to have a really strong foundation to support everything that we do for the sport and within the sport. Other things that we've done that we've really tried to overhaul here are communications. So we've, homed in on having a monthly newsletter with a CEO letter, so I get a chance to let you all know what's happening straight to our membership. We've been running quarterly town halls, so we'll have the whole team in to answer questions, to give updates, to talk about what's going well, where we're getting stuck. I've been trying to build more collegiate connections, so meeting as regularly as possible with the CRCA, a little bit with the IRCA as well, really trying to get to know more college coaches, and build those relationships, because not only is that the pipeline for our national team, but our collegiate rowers in that community, they're a huge part of our community of rowers. So I think it makes complete sense to have that relationship with all of them. And I really have enjoyed getting to know these coaches as well. We're trying to be more consistent on social media. We've more than doubled engagement across multiple platforms on social media. We've launched the Swing of Things podcast. Take a listen if you haven't yet. And then, of course, this rebranding effort. So, a big part of running well is making sure that we're communicating with all of you. So that's been a big focus for 2021. And then we've also created a development team. So for the first time in US Rowing's history, we've had a full team that's committed to raising important funds for the organization. We have Tracy Brown leading that team with 3.5 people. We've been engaging with corporate partners. We've been working on individual giving and really stewarding those donors, from the people giving $10 to the people giving $1 million, and everyone in between. And then we've been also focused on fundraising events, or that team has, with dinners, campaigns. We're having a new bike ride in the fall in the Mid-Atlantic that we hope people will participate in to support the para team. So we have a really good group working on fundraising within US Rowing. The governance piece is something I referenced in the beginning of this, which is basically we put forward a bylaws change this fall to ask our membership organizations and for our athletes to vote on a pretty significant change on the structure of the board. So we will now have 12 members of our board, 4 are athletes per the USOPC. We will have 4 regional representatives, and we will have 4 at-large members. The goal is to have a smaller, more impactful board, and to have board members whose skill sets and experience and expertise align with the needs of the organization. I was really happy to see that 75% of our organizational members and athletes came out to support this change, and I'm incredibly grateful for that support. It was very meaningful. So thank you for that. On the diversity, equity, and inclusion front, this is an area that's very close to my heart, coming from Row, New York. And it's a piece that really, it all gets me up in the morning, but this piece is especially important as we think about how do we broaden access to our sport and how do we diversify our pipeline of talent. So I think some people look at US rowing as, well, there are all these disparate pieces and they are not connected and they have different needs, and they do have different needs and different levels of attention, but they really all, if we're doing this right, and when we are doing this right, when we get to that point, I really, really believe that they're going to be impacting one another positively. So this STEM to Stern program that we brought into US Rowing, founded by Will Bott, he's now on our team at US Rowing. This is the future of diversifying the national team. These young people are going to grow up, go to high school, go to college, continue to be athletes. Eventually, some of them will be on our national team. And for the many who are not on our national team, they're still going to have an experience within our sport. And that's the majority of rowers, right? Is that they don't go on to be on the national team, but they're engaged and they get so much from our sport in terms of teamwork and hard work and having a community around them. So I'm thrilled to have the opportunity to be in this position to increase access to the sport through STEM to Stern. We've been doing monthly community Zooms with folks within rowing who are interested in learning more or are already doing more on that front. We were able to give $100,000 worth of scholarships to young athletes of color involved in our Olympic development camp. And I think you've seen at the convention this year, we've really tried to integrate or weave DEI into panels and into workshops. And then I would also say I'd be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to our DEI committee that's just done tremendous work on behalf of the organization, leading the way, asking good questions, and really being great allies in this work. And I mentioned we have Jenny Trace coming on. Her whole job is going to be focused on adaptive rowing, veterans rowing, the DEI, running DEI, and then of course STEM to Stern. So we're truly making investments in this work. We're not just, saying, oh, we care about it. We are making investments in it. We are actively fundraising for it. We're hiring staff for it. And we're just, to me, that's a real privilege to be able to do that work. There's been a lot of focus on high performance and planning. Anyone who's following all of that, we brought in a lead on coastal rowing who's part-time at this point, but he's fantastic hire, was able to bring home some hardware this summer. We were also able to bring home 1 medal from the Paralympics. The junior team won 4 medals, and there was a lot of work with the council this summer that ran from March through the middle of the summer, focused on what are we doing right on the high performance front and where do we have opportunities to improve, whether that's structure, staffing, resources, resource allocation. It was a very, very big project. It's certainly never over, but I think we have a lot more clarity on the path forward and our priorities. And if I were to summarize, I would say in this search for a new head of high performance, and as we work to put together our plan for Paris in 2024 and LA in 2028, we're really, really focused on how do we identify athletes, how do we recruit them, how do we retain them, and how do we take good care of them through jobs, good medical care, how do we make them fast? All of these things will lead to medals. There are no two ways about that, but we have to get those first parts right. So that's been, a big investment of time, but I really, really believe that if we get this right and we build the right structure, we have so much talent in this country with our athletes. We have so much talent within the colleges and the college coaches, and we have so much heart in this country. Our athletes are incredibly driven. So I'm really looking forward to, what lays ahead for us. There's some questions coming in the Q&A. I should have said this in the beginning. We're going to hold those until the end. I'll try to get through this quickly, and then we'll go through those. Otherwise, we'll be here through dinner time because I'll blab on and on. We were thrilled to be able to have some racing happening, or all of the racing happening. We were able to host trials even before there was a vaccine. I think it took a few years off the lives of our high performance staff, navigating that with the USOPC and having aspiring Olympians in one place without a vaccine and a lot of COVID testing and contact tracing. It was certainly not easy. We were also able to host youth nationals, summer nationals, masters nationals. I would say that personally, that was one of the highlights of my first year, was actually being able to be at those races and meet so many people. Youth nationals was incredible. It was amazing to see kids racing. It didn't matter, what place they finished in or how hot it was. There was just this renewed appreciation for being in boats and being at a race and being with teammates, and it was palpable and wonderful. We were also able to sanction 163 events in 2021. And of course, and this is our double in Portugal from the beach sprints, amazing young duo there. And it's important though to always look back and think, okay, well, what could we have done better? There's a lot of debriefing that we do now, a lot of, really trying to get a culture of feedback. What can we do better? And one thing that I've learned is that, and I say that in my notes here, that I learned this the hard way, that, this isn't fast. None of these changes are going to be fast. I think I had maybe some illusions. It's probably the right word, coming into US Rowing and thinking, oh my goodness, I can think of 100 things I will change within US Rowing. The reality is, and as many of you can relate to, as a rower, I came in thinking, I'll do all of those things, and I'll do them quickly and I'll do them well. The reality is, these things take time, and when we don't have a big staff, we don't have a ton of resources. There's a lot of change that has to happen, and that's going to take time. And there's already been a lot of progress, but specifically, a couple things are thinking about how do we get the right staff in, and we have that now. We have a couple more critical hires to make. How do we evaluate what we do? I think that's an area that we're still working on, right? How do we make sure we're really on a regular basis looking at everything that we've done? Did it work? Did it go as planned? What can we do better? Where are our opportunities? Everything from when we run regattas to running this convention to ID camps, etc. We have to be really looking in the mirror at all times and establishing ways that we can do things better. So, lots of work still ahead. Very, very much aware of that, and feel incredibly grateful to a lot of people out there who have really stepped up and stepped alongside me and said, what can I do to help, and been incredible partners. And I count the staff among those people. I count board members among those people. And then I count people who are not employees or on the board of US Rowing, who are just friends in the rowing world, who, with no personal gain attached, they just care about the sport and they want US Rowing to be successful. So they've been so generous with their time and their energy and their ideas. And I'm just very grateful to them. And I wanted to say that. Maybe Sarah's drinking her water there. Thanks, Sarah. Lots of good stuff ahead for 2022. I feel like we've kind of gotten through, a hard year, a hard but fun and interesting and challenging in all the best ways year. but I think the fun is going to really start in 2022 and 2023. And when I say fun, I mean, we're getting ready to go here, right? And you're going to see more resources in terms of a new website, webinars, new Zooms. You're going to see a staff that is consistently responsive, that is really consistently high caliber. You're going to learn more about coaching and coaching education. We're going to bring incredible, or continue to bring incredible resources to you all. You're going to see more racing. You're going to see an additional focus on safety. We're hiring a director of safety this winter. You're just going to see more and more coming at you from US Rowing. That's really positive. We're also launching the US Rowing Foundation. So the goal is to make sure the fundraising side of US Rowing is really aligned shoulder to shoulder with the national governing body. And you know, that will help us bring in additional resources. So, you know, in terms of this slide, US Rowing and our members, I want to put out there that feedback is such a good thing, right? Give us the feedback, tell us what's going well, tell us where you think something should be different. I was thinking about this on my run this morning and thinking, do I want to encourage feedback? I do, actually. I do, because feedback is how we get better, right? Coaching is how we get better. I would encourage good coaching. I would encourage, you know, I would remind people that this is a very new team running US Rowing. And so I would try to think of yourselves as coaches of a new group. And so think of how you would coach that group, right? You would probably really try to give the feedback and be critical, but you know, be constructive in that. And we love that, right? We want to do a good job. No one is working at US Rowing for the money or the mental health benefits. People are here because they care about the sport and they want to do a good job. So please keep in touch with us, keep engaging, support us in any way that you can, because supporting US Rowing supports the sport. The better we are, the better we can help all of you become. You'll help us grow the sport. You'll help us make the sport safer. We'll have fun and we'll go fast. And I think that's what it's all about. So keep it coming. And last but not least, I really wanted to thank you all again, the board, the staff, the volunteers, the referees, coaches, fans, supporters, rowers. We are all US Rowing, and I want us to really become a national governing body that you all are really proud to become members of and be members of. And we can only do that if you know that you're in this with us, and I thank you for that. So that was a little rushed. I'm sorry. I do want your feedback though, and I do want to take questions. So I think Jules came back.
I never left.
Oh, thanks, Jules. No, I know you're there. I know you're always there. Should I just look in the chat or the Q&A?
Currently, the chat is where some of the questions are. I haven't seen one come through the Q&A. So if people want to, chat, Q&A is a little easier for us to track because we can click a button that says we're going to answer this, and then we've answered it. So if you don't want us to miss your question, please put it in the Q&A. So
okay.
I guess I'm going to ask the curious question, if you don't mind, Amanda. I would love some feedback from people in the chat on what they think of our new logo.
Yeah, please bring it on. But two things. One, I saw Charlotte's note, and I saw it out of the corner of my eye where it said white is the coastal lead, and I was like, no, Charlotte. But then I see what you meant. Who is the coastal lead? Dan Garbett. He's amazing. We're so lucky to have him, and happy to connect you with him. He's great. And I'm also super happy. Rich, you're so wonderful that you joined. I almost invited you like half an hour before this started. I'm so thrilled Rich is here. He is our new head of all domestic programs. And we are so lucky to have him. And I'm so confident everyone else is going to feel that way too. So yay, Rich. And Kevin, thanks, Kevin. I'm so glad the Tulsa crew loves the new logo, that it is sleek. I guess you can all read. I don't need to read these out loud, but yes, a couple people have said they don't see rowing in it. Do you see the boat? I don't mean that sounded sarcastic. Do you see the boat? Oh, Jules, maybe you should describe that.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about it. I was on the committee that
Mary
talked
asked
for a
about
long time.
Jules too. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but Mary asked a really good question. Hi, Mary. Can you provide description of the thinking behind the meaning, look, and feel of the new logo? I'm not good at describing it, and other people are. It's really they can describe it well. Jules, are you one of those people?
Yeah, I can give it a shot. Absolutely.
Okay.
I think so. One of the things that the people that designed the logo, the company we worked with, the design team that we worked with, they interviewed a lot of people. They talked to referees, they talked to regatta directors, they talked to rowers in different constituencies, and kind of talked about, what do you think? What do you see when you think about US rowing? And a lot of the things that we wanted was for the logo to be, I'm glad to see the word sleek. We wanted something that was modern. We wanted something that would fit. And we just wanted, something that was a little bit, I think fresh in terms of colors. What we ended up with was, we continued to have a shield. The national team has always had a shield. That's where that, kind of in terms of the shape, that's how we got there. But the boat is in the negative space in the middle. And the lines that make the shield, the colors, they're obviously the red, white, and blue that we've always had, but in a way they make the wake as the boat cuts through the water. And obviously I see the comment, hey, there's no bow ball. It's very stylized. If you look at other governing bodies, for example, USA Ski and Snowboard, there's not even skiing or snowboarding. There is just mountains on a shield and it says USA. The soccer logo has no soccer ball. There's none of that. And so a lot of governing bodies are kind of looking for a mark that is recognizable, but simplified, that is more about an idea than about exactly highlighting who you are and what you do, which is why we went away from the oars in a circle that we had until this week, and we went to something different. So what we were looking for, I think, was something that people would recognize eventually, that would be fitting with these other governing bodies without necessarily, being someone in a rowing motion or being something that would be overly descriptive. And so hence a shield, the colors that we've always had, but with a few more tones to that. A logo that has no edges, no borders in the way that it's designed. And the shape of a rowing shell in the negative space in the center. And so to us, obviously I've been looking at it for a while, so I've gotten very used to it. I totally get people who say like, hey, this is new to me. Like I'm gonna have to get used to it. But for us, we wanted something that was open, that was colorful, and that was sleek. And I think that the design team eventually hit that out of the park.
Yeah, and it wasn't easy. There was a lot of back and forth and refining of this. Oh, Jill saw it. Yep. Jules, that was good. I'm really bad at describing these things. Oh, Val, yay. Val loves it. I love it too. And it took a while to get to this. So what other questions? Oh, wait, yeah. I see a question.
Amanda, there's a question in the Q&A. If you could kind of describe kind of what will be the difference.
Yep, I see
the from foundation and foundation moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. That's such a good question. So for people who don't know, the NRF, it came about in the 60s because no one was raising any money for the US national team. There's no government support for the national team. We spend about $4 million a year on national team expenses. And the only funding we get is from the USOPC, which is about $1.5 million a year. So that's a big gap. So the NRF was created to try to fill that gap, and they were incredibly meaningful and still are supporters of US rowing, specifically for the national team. So that group came together and for many years now has been raising about $1 million a year, some years more, some years less. And then at the end, through that money that's raised comes over to US Rowing to support the national team. Before I even came in as CEO, I felt very strongly that although that model, has provided support for US Rowing, one, it's never been enough support. If you do that math, that's $1 million and then 1.5 from the NRF, that's still a big gap. And I think a healthy organization is able to bring that fundraising arm within the organization and make sure that they're doing it shoulder to shoulder. So there's no delays in funding, there are no hurdles to funding. It's really, you're fully aligned on that effort. So there was an effort to merge the NRF and US Rowing over the last year. There was definitely a good faith effort on both parts. And the way things went, we were not able to come together. We were not able to align. And so we decided for US Rowing that we already had the fundraising arm of US Rowing led by Tracy Brown here within our staff, and that it would make sense for us to create, similar to USA Swimming, USA Ski and Snowboard, to have our own foundation that we build with board and leadership that raises money for the national team, as well as diversity, equity, and inclusion in rowing, as well as coaching education. No, there will be zero space between the governing body and the foundation. And so I can't really speak to the NRF's plan moving forward, but I'm happy to put everyone or anyone in touch with their leadership there. I'm looking for any other questions?
Nothing right now.
Okay. Elaine, thanks for liking the logo. The hull is too tall.
Well, I want to emphasize, obviously to a degree, a logo is always stylized, right? Like if you look at the oars in our current logo, they're not. it's not exactly a perfect oar either. So yeah.
Right. Oh, Terry, this is a very good question. Can you talk about the new staff structure? Yes, because I love to think about staff structure. And then I'll talk about the USOPC assessment. I'm earning my dinner tonight. So the staff structure is, so there's the board, and I work very closely with Nobu Ijizuka, who I'm so grateful to. We have an incredible board chair, who became chair in March, and then there's me, and then we have the heads of each department. So we basically have created a senior team, and that way I can, really focus on some external pieces of US rowing with USOPC and funding, et cetera. But each of those departments, so we have fundraising, which is development. We have marketing and communications. We have programs, and that's what Rich just came in to lead. And that's got a whole bunch of wonderful people in it. Jules and Sarah here with us tonight. That's like so much of what we do. And then there's high performance, and then there's community, and that's what Jenny's going to be coming in to run. And again, that's adaptive, veterans, DEI, and STEM to Stern. So that's really taking care of that piece. And then there's operations. So that's everything, finance, HR, that's the operations of running of US rowing. So, and then each of those departments has a team, and some are small, some are big, like the team that Jules and Sarah, and that's the biggest team. Like that's doing the bulk of what we're doing with membership. That's membership and regattas, coaching, education, safety, masters, juniors, camps. So that's the staffing structure. I don't know if people have follow-up questions on that. And I'm really happy with it. I feel very lucky to have the staff that we have. Really, really wonderful people to work with. Switching over to the USOPC assessment. So this is a, yeah. Oh, Jules, am I missing anything?
No, go for it. That's the one.
The USOPC assessment started in January, and I don't have all the notes in front of me on this, but their goal was to really, they did the assessment because they'd for a number of years gotten feedback on high performance at USRowing that was not positive. That was critical of culture, selection, communications, confidentiality, and conflicts of interest. So, for good reason, the USOPC hired Aaron Fox, and some people have asked about this. This was completely paid for by the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee, but not by USRowing. And they spent January through September speaking to a number of athletes, coaches, administrators, board members to do their assessment of USRowing. And they came back with a 140-page confidential report that provided extensive feedback on what we could do differently. We sent out a short overview of a response to the community report, which I'm happy to reshare, or maybe we could put it in the chat if anyone has access to it, but anyone on the staff. But did it prompt any changes at USRowing? Yes, 100%. We're just digesting all of it. So a lot of it is at the board level. A good amount of it is at the CEO level. And I am 100% committed to taking that feedback. I'm not taking that and putting it in a drawer somewhere. I really agree with all the feedback, and I think we're lucky to have it codified for us, and so we have a real sort of plan for what we need to do differently. So that's a big topic. I almost think we should do a Zoom just on that. Maybe I'll make a note of that, because I think it's a topic that deserves a real community conversation. And then how does the STEM component work in the STEM to Stern program? That's an excellent question. I don't have Will Bott with me, but I can tell you from extensive conversations with him that the big piece that Will and his team do is that they partner with a college or university where the STEM program is taking place. We have a woman on our staff, Rachel Hunter, who's phenomenal. She's an engineer, and she runs the STEM program. So she works with those colleges and those, sometimes it's PhD students, to bring the STEM curriculum to the students in the STEM to Stern program. So it's not just rowing, it's also the academic college prep STEM piece. So I've seen it in action on video, at least, and it looks amazing for the middle schoolers. Charlotte, really good question about social media. We are so understaffed on that front. And if Colleen were seeing this, she would be so sad, because she knows it's true. We are staffing up on that front. We are so underwater. Yes, we do need help. We need more bodies and more hours in the day to keep up with that. So good news is that we're looking to hire a new person to help with social media. So here's a plug. If anyone wants to come join us in New York and help run social media, really fun job for USRowing. That we are going to get better at that. And Ben, thanks for liking the podcast. I never think anyone listens to it except for my dad. Chris Chase mentioned small club Saturdays. Will Jenny lead that? I think Jenny will lead some. Well, Jules knows more about that. Are you guys going to switch up hosts?
Yeah, it'll probably be a joint effort between kind of what the themes of the unique days will be, but also I think who we highlight and how we highlight the different clubs that we are working with in terms of telling their story. It will kind of depend on kind of what the targets of that team might be and who they communicate with. So I'm sure Jenny will be taking on some of that. But our communications team and in member services through me will be taking on some of that as well. And I appreciate the feedback on that, Ben, in terms of making that interactive. We've certainly talked about even things like a takeover where a team can tell their own story and people can post questions and using social media to do that. So in terms of the dialogue that Charlotte mentioned and making things interactive, that's definitely part of our 2022 goals. The moment we have the extra people on staff to actually do that well.
Yeah. So two things in response to that. Completely agree with you, Ben. Lecturing, not my favorite thing, right? We should be interactive. We should be engaging. We want everyone to be curious. We need to all ask more questions and listen more. So definitely want to do that. And I think we've done a good job of that in the DEI Zooms. If anyone's been on them and want to jump in, to me, that's been one of the more gratifying parts of doing those Zooms is that you're really hearing from different voices within the rowing community. And I think that's so critical and valuable. And two, yeah, we need more staff. Just a shout out to Jules. Jules and Kelly managed in 1 month alone 14,000 new members. Am I getting that right, Jules?
No, that's the number.
14,000 new members in 1 month. I'd be like, Jules, are you gonna? I didn't hear back from you. He's like, I'm buried in an inbox. Actually, I still do hear back from Jules, but so I made that up. But like, it's not right. It's too much, and hundreds and hundreds of clubs signing up. We have over 1,000 now, or 900. I don't know the number.
No, we actually, through the push, especially with the fall season, we far exceeded our expectations. And in the pre-pandemic years, we had about 1,350 clubs, and we made it to 1,275 this year. So we were almost back to before COVID. And in terms of individual members, we ended up with something very similar where I think we've told people, right, that it dropped by more than half throughout the pandemic. People were just not renewing for, totally understandable reasons, other priorities. There wasn't competition. So we had dropped from about 75 to about 32,000 individual members. And as of this week, we are back to 69,000. So we are really amongst the NGBs that have seen some of the fastest recovery in terms of getting back to where they were before COVID hit. And so most grateful for that. It helped us, I think, achieve more things this year than we had anticipated, and certainly set us up for opportunities for next year. Like, we couldn't have done that without everyone coming back in the way they did.
But we still, all to say too, I mean, I've been shocked. I still, in some ways, I feel like I've been here forever now and feel like 30 years older. And in other ways, I feel like I just started and I'm still learning. And I was shocked in my first year to see in action how few people we have supporting our members. So actually, good news, we just hired a new membership coordinator. So I don't know if she's on tonight, Jules, but making progress there. And thank you to Dave. That means a lot. The appreciation for increasing awareness and access to our sport. I spent 18 years at Row New York before coming to USRowing, for people who don't know that. So of course that's important to me. It's important to me, but I think it's important to the sport more importantly. This isn't about me. This is about our sport. And I think we're going to just get so much better. And I don't mean just faster, but better all around when we can open up our boathouse doors, literally and figuratively, in the years to come. Claire asks a good question about the CRCA and the IRCA. I've had more conversations with the CRCA, and what's kind of been nice about them is we have not gone in with an agenda. We just try to do a Zoom once a month, and we end up just sometimes they just have questions for me, or I'll have questions for them and want to know what are their pain points. Is there anything I can help with, or US Rowing can help with? I want to have a relationship with these collegiate programs and the coaches. It was surprising to me when I started that US Rowing didn't already have those good relationships with the college programs and leadership within CRCA and RICA, et cetera. So listen, we have so many rowers rowing in college. They are the future of our sport. And these coaches, we have incredibly talented collegiate coaches. So it makes absolute sense to me to have a direct line as much as possible to these stakeholders in our sport. So, and it's been a pleasure to get to know those coaches as well.
Amanda, there's a really good question in the Q&A from Stephen. He's a high school coach, and it's a lengthy question. I think it's really worth reading this to you. So it says he feels that more and more every year that two of the financial difficulties is that we have resources that we use that look free but are not, because they're rivers and parks, and that we have organizations that do a lot of things behind the scenes but get little credit for the work and for money spent, local, regional, and a level of like US Rowing, and that a lot of rowers and parents might think that the only costs are boats, even though a lot of us know better. Is there a way to increase the transparency of long-term and true stewardship and cost and needs in our sport? And I think we have a pretty good answer to that. Like, it's part of why we changed some of our messaging going into next year. But if you could speak to that a little bit as well.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Stephen. And I hope Rich is still on and listening, because this will be a big part of what you do here. I wonder if you're asking for clubs and for US Rowing. I kind of think you are, and they're sort of similar answers. Having run a club and organization, I get it. Yeah, people would say, well, you just need coaches and some boats. I'm like, no, there's so much more. There's so much more. And anyone who's out there doing this work knows that. And I think, it's our responsibility to help clarify the message and really illustrate to all of our members, well, what are the costs, and what are we providing, and what is this work, right? I didn't know before I became a part of US Rowing. I thought, oh, well, I think they just provide insurance. And that's absolutely not the only thing that's being provided here, or the work that's being done. So we need to do a better job of illustrating that for all of you, and help all of you illustrate it to your stakeholders, whether that's creating templates that you can use, budget outlines, language, narratives, etc. We're all in this together. And so I think we can be helpful with that. But yeah, there's so much more that's happening. But I also think a lot of people just don't know that what US Rowing is doing. I certainly didn't know. So we're going to really work on that to make sure that people do know. And like Jules said, we're really trying to get better at driving that home, in terms of membership support and webinars and Zooms and the coaching education. Brett Gorman is fantastic. Like, send your coaches to Brett. Look at all the resources we have online. Anything you need to know, any pain points you have, we will help you with them. The DEI hires we're making, the STEM to Stern program you can bring. So these are all things we're looking forward to.
Yeah, I think there's another question, and I think it segues really nicely from something you just said as well. Like, I think this year, one of the things we highlighted in terms of some of the expenses that we're taking on is safe sport. And there's a question in the chat that's like, what's US Rowing going to do about coaches or other people in the community that had potential, like there might be a safe sport violation, or what do you do? And I think we are making major changes in the requirements for safe sport. Part of that is because all governing bodies are doing that simultaneously. And we certainly agree that, yeah, having people that might be, problematic around are, as it's called in his question, a blocker to the inclusion and diversity that we seek. And what I want to emphasize, I think, because I deal with this quite a lot, as does Pamela Adler, who's our director of safe sport, US Rowing doesn't make final decisions on people being removed or how that ends up being. That's a determination that's made by the Center for Safe Sport, and we are tied to follow their recommendations. That doesn't mean that we can't provide feedback, but the misconception that I kind of want to emphasize and talk about here is that things get sent to the center, and the center reviews them and makes a determination. The way we follow that is we're legally bound to follow that in a lot of cases, and so. If a case is serious, it gets taken by them. They provide us with feedback. Those people are removed. Those are changes that are made. We very publicly post on our website people that have been banned from our community because the allegations against them were proven to a point where that was necessary. And so I like to think that that's something that we already address in the way that we should address that. But I also want to say we are tied to very strict policies. Some of them are literally the law. And we just do what we're being told to do in that sense. So I appreciate that question. I think we're definitely moving forward with good changes and more feedback and more services for our teams.
I would add too that in terms of diversity and inclusion, I learned just this week from triathlon and water polo that they have policies in place, like zero tolerance policies for discrimination and real poor behavior on the fronts within the sport that I would like to explore more. And having Jenny and her team here will give us some bandwidth to sort of come up with that and codify that and make very clear to all of our members what the expectations are in terms of behavior, and for referees as well. And we will not tolerate racism, sexism, homophobia, any of that. So if it's happening and we don't know about it, you should, you can email me, you can email Jules, and that is not going to happen on our watches. I have met with Rita, the Rowing Industry Trade Association. Only when I first started. I would love to meet with them again, though. And do we have a public Google Calendar? We have the Nuts and Bolts newsletter, and that has all the dates. I don't know if you have to, imagine you have to subscribe to that, Jules, do you know?
I think it goes to our complete mailing list. So
okay.
Unless someone specifically unsubscribed from the US Rowing update mailing list, people would get them at least once a month with the dates kind of moving forward.
Yeah, it's called Nuts and Bolts, and it lists out everything that's coming up, webinars, the DEI Zoom, all of that. But a Zoom, a Google Calendar is a good idea.
Yep.
We don't use Google right now, which is very difficult for me. But we will. I'm going to add that to the notes. I think that's a good idea. Do we have any other burning questions? And remember, we do these quarterly Zooms, so town halls. So, this is not like the only opportunity. Really want to hear from people. We're all doing this together. We all care about the sport. We care about rowers. We care about young people, not so young people rowing, para rowers, referees, you name it. So we want to hear from you, want the feedback, want people who would like to get involved, looking for volunteers, for interns. We're often posting jobs. So please know that we're in this with you. So, and thank you for taking some time this evening. Again, I know it's a Friday, end of the week. Boo. I mean, yay, end of the week, but who's actually here? Are you guys like, I'm impressed. Thank you for joining us. And thanks, Jules and Sarah.
Amanda, if you don't mind, if I can just do a convention plug real quick too. Just if you guys have questions, if you haven't been able to see one of the sessions, I know everybody, has busy day jobs and busy things going on this week. So all recordings will be posted on Sketch 1 week after the conclusion. So I think that's December 20th. But if you didn't, again, catch a session, go back and watch them. There were some really, really good sessions earlier on in the week. And then tomorrow we're kicking off with Business of Rowing. So focusing, if you have more Safe Sport questions, Safe Sport will be on along with our director. So that will be a really good time to get out those answers of more like club management. But other than that, thank you guys so much for signing up for a convention. It's been a blast.
Sarah, I have one thing I didn't mention was that we had 3 medals for the U23 team, and I did not mention that. And I shout out to them. That feels like a zillion years ago, but it happened. It's real. The future is bright, and we just have so many talented athletes out there. So I just wanted to make sure I mentioned them too.
Amazing. Awesome. Well, thank you, everybody. I hope you have a good rest of your night. And if you're a referee on this call, we will see you in just a few hours.